Hey y'all, welcome to this week's episode of Race Kiki with Jonathan Lee. I'm your host, Jonathan, but you already knew that. This week I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Reginald T. Brown. Reginald and I met through the Generations Project. We're doing this incredible speaking event on June 5th and June 30th. 5th and 30th at the AIDS Memorial at 7 o'clock. It's stories of survival. And y'all, the life this incredible human has lived, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Drink this conversation up because remember, we can't fix a problem we're afraid to talk about. So let's talk about race, and may I please present you Reginald T. Brown. Drink them up, y'all. You're gonna love it. All right. Well, welcome, Reginald, to Race Kiki with Jonathan Lee. How are you?
Well, today, thank you.
Fantastic. Well, I brought you here because you and I are in this in the Generations Project speaking event that's coming up in June. And in hearing pieces and parts of your story, I wanted to bring you here to ask you just one question. When did you learn about race?
I guess, when did I learn about race? It's like, when did I learn I was queer? It's like, I think I've known it. I knew I was different. I knew that I
Okay.
was different, not only from a queer standpoint, but I knew that I was different in that the environment that I was in was predominantly white. I grew up in Kansas City, Kansas. There are
Okay.
a few black people there, but I lived in a actually rather in a black middle class suburb. My
Hmm.
parents lived downtown on like Fifth Street, and we moved to 34th Street, which was whoa, folks said y'all live way out there. But it was the first black subdivision built in the early 50s by and for black professionals, middle class. So it's very strongly middle class. So I was in this black bubble within this white. All the schools I've gone to were white. All the schools I've gone to, and
Hmm.
actually, I found out recently that one of our neighbors' mothers had to go up to the school before I got there to make sure that black people were able to get in because black people were supposed to go to another school that was down the street, and this neighbor's mother said, "Oh no, no, no!" So actually, we were the first to integrate this white school called Quindale School, and I did not know that until maybe within the last 5 years. I found out on Facebook that.
Really?
Yeah, but I knew that all the people. I had a black male teacher my sixth grade year, but all the other teachers were women and white.
Hmm. Hmm. What was it like navigating that territory back then?
I had to always be better than everybody else in order to be even. And
Hmm.
now that I realize that better than everybody else, that better than white folks is not really nothing to aspire to because even of themselves, they have nothing. The only reason they have anything is because they take it away from other people or they get their validation by invalidating others. But it took me a while. I mean, as a kid, I didn't know that. So I was a super achiever. I was everything and I did the best of everything. And I learned the game. I know how white people work. I know how to play the
Hmm.
game. I mean, so in that sense, it's great because I can get any environment. So I just sit back and listen and watch. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
I know where that's coming from. So I learned a lot from being in the situation where I had to figure out how to navigate this thing. And I do remember in grade school. I just thought of this. I don't remember what grade, but this teacher this person like came into the class, it wasn't really part of the classroom. For whatever reason, she was taunting me and said, "Why are you crying, nigger?" This everything other word was nigger, nigger, nigger. And I was, I don't know. Wow, I had not thought about that till now. And I couldn't have been more than maybe second or third grade. And I don't know why she was just going off on it. But I mean, she was not part of the school. She was just in the school for whatever reason. I don't even remember that. I don't remember what that was for. But I do remember that. But wow, obviously it didn't stop me. But now, because
Hmm.
now I hadn't even thought about it until,
Hmm.
man, I hadn't thought about that. But I do
My
remember that. Yeah.
one of my it's the story I tell a lot. When I had my oh wow, I'm black. When my third grade teacher took a classroom full of kids to the plantation.
Oh,
And
you mentioned that. Yes.
yeah, well, I grew up in Natchez, Mississippi, and it's the dirty South, as we call it.
The
And
30 South, 330.
no, dirty,
Dirty. Okay, gotcha.
dirty as in filthy.
Okay.
Um, and we were always constantly reminded of the difference between us. We were constantly reminded that we were reminded you're walking down the street, and if a white person walks on that sidewalk, you get off the street. That's what we were, that's the way that was back in that time. And that was in the 70s. But my teacher, third grade teacher, took a classroom filled with
Wait, wait,
black
wait, wait, wait,
students.
wait. You say that was in the 70s,
Yeah, this was in the 70s. I
not
was
the
born in
30s.
72.
In the 70s, you still had to.
Yes.
I'd heard about that, but I thought that was, see how much I
No.
know, how much I
Mm-mm.
know. In the
I was
70s.
I can remember in my adult life going through Mississippi and seeing white and still seeing whites only sign.
Well, you just educated me a whole hell of a lot.
So that's when I tell this story to other black people in the South, they're like, yeah, that seems about normal. But when I tell it to people above the Mason-Dixon line, some of them always seem a little shook by that. And it
Yeah.
was my revelation when the white teacher, took the classroom filled with black students to that plantation. We weren't actually allowed to step foot in the main house. We only got escorted back around so that we could see the slave quarters with black people dressed as slaves. And then the teacher looks at us children and she says, see, your people were here and they were happy. That's my first recollection. That's my first, oh, well, I'm black and I guess this is what that means.
Wow.
And I always had
How old
these,
were you?
I was 8.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And it's one of those memories that stand out. Just like we moved and I went to Washington State, Tacoma, Washington. I think I was 12 or 13, somewhere in there. And I fell in love with a little white boy, and all of this was happening. But at the same time, I was, ooh, look, it's the African booty scratcher, is what I was being referred to in taunts in the classroom. Or, oh, look, he came from the ghetto, because I was the only black kid in that school. And my sister was the only black kid in her school. And my other sister was the only black kid in her school.
Wow.
So I have these very visceral memories of being reminded of my place.
Okay.
And it it always leaves me with questions as to how did we get here.
Right.
And if I'm telling these stories and I'm 48, and I shouldn't be telling similar stories to what you're saying.
Wow. Now, I've never been the only black person in a school, but I have been the black person in many gatherings.
Hmm.
Maybe there were one or two in a class or meetings or something where I'm the only. That's happened a lot where I was the
Hmm.
only black person, but also because I was tracked and because I was smart or because I could
Hmm.
play the game, I was in situations where other black people were not.
Yeah, I'm always there.
Okay, all right, so
Yeah.
okay, you understand that. But I've
Hmm.
never been the only black person in the school. There's always been other black people. But within that, I could have been the only black person in a particular part of whatever's going on.
Hmm. That's interesting. Now, when did you leave Kansas?
In August of 1975, when I graduated from the University of Kansas,
Okay. Okay. And then where'd you go?
New York. I came to New York when I was 13. My mother brought my sister, my cousin, and I to the New York World's Fair in 1965. And when I
Hmm.
got to New York City, I thought, wow, I felt like I was at home because I'd seen so much of it on television, but also the vibe and actually the energy of New York was palpable. And I
Okay.
could feel that and I felt comfortable here. And I thought, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. It's
Hmm.
just that I have outgrown the place where I was born. My
Hmm.
father worked for the railroad, so I've been traveling to places more than I can even remember. I was so young. And from the first time that I realized there was more to Kansas City, I wanted to see it. But I'm saying
Hmm.
when I got to New York City, there was a comfort that I felt here that I never felt anywhere else. And I told my mother, when I was 30, I said, Mama, I know where I'm going to live when I grow up. I'm going to live in New York City. And my mother was always very supportive. She said, you can do and be anything you want. I wanted to. And she said, okay, yeah, okay. And she there was never any doubt in her that I was going to do that because quite frankly, I have done and become anything I wanted to be.
Hmm.
You know what? Because she told me that, and I believe her because she was my mother. And I
Hmm.
realize how blessed I am, how many children's parents tell them something else, and of course they believe it. If mama said it, that means it's true. No, no,
If
no question.
yeah,
Which is
absolutely.
why, which is why when that woman called me nigger, it was like, okay, okay, but my mama said da 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 da. But you know, you're saying this now, this is uncomfortable now, but my mama said da da. So I was able to latch on to that, even though, like I said, I had not remembered that, but I had this foundation that no matter what, that well, mama said it. And if mama said it, I don't care what you said, my mama said it.
My mama said it. Yeah.
That's it,
And
that's it. And if mama said it, that means it's true.
you are absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And I know that in many points in my when I was going through all of that crap as a child, and I would go home to my beautiful, incredible mom, and she would just reaffirm all of the all of the things that I am. Sure, I'm weird, but that weird just means I'm too big for where I was.
That was my feeling when I got to New York. I said, I
Yeah,
realized there was nothing actually wrong with me. There was nothing wrong with me. It's just that I just outgrew that place because
yeah.
when I talk to people about things, they looked at me like in fact, someone would say to me, why would you ever want to go to New York? And I was thinking, why would you ever not want to go?
Yeah.
I mean, that
Wow.
was me like, why would you ever not want to go anywhere?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
So tell
again,
me,
and back
tell
because of
me.
my father,
Mhm.
travel was as natural for me as anything. We
Mhm.
traveled at least twice a year. One because I had an aunt who lived in LA, so for summer we go there, and for Christmas we go there. At least that. But I had cousins in Oklahoma. I was on the fact when I was old enough, my sister and I went on the train to Tulsa by ourselves.
Wow. Wow.
And speaking of Tulsa, let me just get this while it's on my mind. Is that I just found out that my aunt was involved or was around during the Tulsa riots. And
Really?
I never heard about the Tulsa riots until like 10 years ago. And I
Mhm.
never heard that aunt tell me about that, even though I'd heard the word Greenwood all the time. I'd heard all this stuff, but that, well, why
Right.
did anybody share this with me? And I guess it was traumatic for her, but she did share this with my cousin who visited me just last week. And I thought, wow, okay, but she never mentioned that to me before. But I guess, but I was right. But I thought that's part of my legacy that I did not have, that I was not connected to.
That I don't think I've ever met anyone directly connected to Tulsa, to
Yeah.
my knowledge. But again, I didn't learn about Tulsa until last year.
Okay.
And yeah, it came as a surprise to me that I could have been this blind to that history.
Exactly. Like I said,
But
I
then
was in Tulsa many summers. I was in
mhm,
Tulsa walking on Greenwood Avenue. I heard Greenwood. I just
you just didn't think
completely
anything
oblivious.
of it.
No, no, no. And nobody told me any different.
I can only imagine that it was a little too painful to to talk about. And
Yeah. I mean, no, I can't imagine what that's like. I could not really imagine what it's
yeah,
like to live through that, but I would guess so.
I could suspect that bringing it up and then having all of the history completely erase it, just it's completely gone. And when you speak it up, it brings up all of this unresolved trauma that no one is prepared or understands how to negotiate through.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But like I said, she did confide this to my cousin
Mhm.
when he was there. And I thought, oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm glad that somebody that she told somebody.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me about New York in the 70s,
Ooh,
namely queer New York in the 70s.
ooh, oh, New York in the 70s. I was a kid from Kansas in a candy store.
Okay.
In a candy store, and meeting people and hooking up with people was as easy as making eye contact and saying, "Your place or mine."
Hmm.
It
With that
was just,
lean in, you say.
oh yeah, your place or mine. And I'm telling you, I would have experiences that I thought it can't be any better than this, and then run into somebody else, run into somebody else. But I came here to New York to pursue a career as a performing artist. When
Okay.
I was here, when I was 13, that was not on my radar because dance had never occurred to me until I saw a dancer from the Martha Graham Company at the university when I was on my way to the sauna. I looked in and saw this dancer doing incredible things with his body. And I
Hmm.
was curious and I went in and took the class. The teacher was actually a former Graham teacher. And she said to me, what? You have incredible presence. What you lack is training. You lack is discipline. So that was the fall. So I came to New York for a 2-week winter program in Christmas. That summer, 2-week winter, and then when I graduated in May, I
Hmm.
stayed at Lawrence because I was cast as a cowboy in the musical Oklahoma. So I said, well, I got to stay here for do this. And then in 1975 in August, that's when I moved to New York. Now, I tell you all that to say that I was so dedicated to dance that I can remember this as a guest pick. I met this fantastic, hot white man with a bald head on the subway.
Hmm.
And I was on my way to class. He said, you know what, I really like to get together with you. I said, okay, but I have to go to class. And
Hmm.
I was focused enough because I knew that this is what I wanted to do, but we hooked up after. But I was disciplined enough that even though that was tempting, I said, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I got to go to class because
Hmm.
I had to be focused because everybody told me, oh, you're too old for that. You can't do that. And I said, no, 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 no. Please tell me what I can't do, especially if I want to do it. Please tell me so that you can watch my back as I do it with flair.
And better and fabulous.
Well,
Extension who?
yeah, that's it. That's it. Tell me that. So yeah, you tell us. I did not get that memo. My mama told me. My mama told me I could do anything I wanted. So I
Hmm.
hear what you're saying, but I don't hear what you're saying. So you know what? Watch my back.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I say that to say that even as incredible and tempting as it was, I was able to go to class. I was able to do everything I needed to do, and that sort of thing. My first my first actual job was at Macy's on the sixth floor in Towels and Sheets. And I
Hmm.
got that from a guy that I met the night before at a back room in the village. I told him I was just moved to New York and was looking for a job. He said, oh, go in and ask for this person. And they hired me the next day. So I was privileged again that I never worked my entire life. And the
Hmm.
only work I did in college was to do live modeling, but that was just to make some extra money. I never had to work until I got to New York.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, you brought up something else in our meeting that stuck out to me. Something about being shot at or something.
Yes, a week after graduation, I moved to the campus of the University of Kansas because I'd
Okay.
already enrolled as a student. The first week that or maybe the second week that I was there was a mass demonstration in support of the Kent State Four. The Kent State Four were 4 students in Kent State, Ohio, who were gunned down for protesting against the United States involvement in Vietnam by the National Guard.
Okay.
So this protest, like I said, my first mass protest was to support them and to fight fight back against the Vietnam War. And so I went to the demonstration, and I remember it was just, and I only started telling this story within the last couple of weeks, because the last couple of months, actually, I think I told this in January, because it was very triggering to me. I didn't realize that, but there was pepper spray. I couldn't see what was going on. There was screaming and yelling and shouting. And I remember hearing and feeling a bullet buzz past my right ear. And then I heard gunfire, and I looked behind me as I was running, and Nick Rice, one of my colleagues, was laying on the ground dead. And it's like all these things are, coming in my mind, saying, damn, wow, I could really, standing up for what I believe could really end my life. And I thought, well, I guess that's what I'm gonna have to do. But I was able to connect that to, I'd been a foreign exchange student in Chile, the summer semester between my junior and senior year. And in Chile, when I landed, it was in the midst of a nationwide strike against US involvement in Chile to protect its financial interests in Anaconda Copper. And I always thought that, oh, we're in other countries to protect the people, not big business. So having that fresh in my mind, and then the Vietnam War, and I thought, wait a minute, this is connected. And I was facing draft age at that time to be drafted. And I was like, oh, wait. You mean to tell me that I may be drafted to go and kill people to support American businesses in another country? Hell to the fucking no.
Hell no.
I put those things together because I had that Chile as my backdrop, and believe me, it was a nationwide strike. And I'm the gringo here, and all the gringo go home. I mean, they didn't direct it to me, but I mean, here I am, this privileged little kid coming here, but I'm the gringo. I'm the enemy, and I had nothing to do with what my government was doing. Nobody attacked me, but it was just that feeling that here I am, a guest in this country, and my government is here fucking over people, stealing from them. So that was a turning point, I guess, in my story. That's going to say I went from privilege to protest. I mean, I went for this privileged person. I said, oh, I'm actually getting, and back that up, because when I was 11, I remember seeing children on the television being hosed by policemen and guard dogs, but I wasn't able to make the connection because of my privilege. And I realized that even though they looked like me, I didn't feel that. So all these things were like coming into place. And I realized, okay, you know what? This privilege, as cool as it was not. That's not what I can do. That's not what I'm do for the rest of my life. So I said I need to put that privilege down and put my life on the line when necessary. And that is why I am able to. That's fueled my activism ever since.
How so?
Well, I've been arrested so far 6 times, 3 times for housing and 3 times for healthcare. And every time I get arrested, okay, the first time I got arrested, they did a background check on all of us to make sure that we wouldn't have any trouble. And my name came up in a search, but the birthday was wrong. But the fact that my name came up, and I'm thinking I'm in the war room in Albany, the capital, and I'm thinking, well, you know what? And they're asking people, if anybody, if you don't leave, you're going to be arrested. I was thinking, well, Lord, what should I do? And then the Lord said, you know what? I would not have brought you here if this is not where I wanted you to be. And so with that, I went and got arrested. And it was interesting, to be sitting in handcuffs in a room full of people with guns and not being completely, couldn't do anything, couldn't even go to the bathroom by myself. And to sit there and have this process, that was again, that privilege, just sort of say, okay, well, you know what? this is what, and the point is, I believed in what was going on. It was the first time that Cuomo, the rent was not raised for a complete year in the 47 year history of the rent control.
Mhm.
We were arrested because of his inaction on rent control. So that was my first time doing it here in Albany. And then another time I did it was we were doing 24-hour vigil to read the names of all of the people who died from HIV in New York due to the government inaction. Of course, like I said, I'm HIV positive. I've been HIV positive since 1986.
Okay.
And at that time, the doctor told me to get my affairs in order because I'd be dead in 2 years. I said, okay, well, after getting over the initial shock, I looked at it and said, well, wait a minute. I always try to look for a blessing in everything that's going on. And I said, wait a minute, I see 3 blessings in this. Number 1, I don't have to worry about getting it anymore. Number 2, it taught me the importance of prioritizing. This is important. That's not, and it's not negotiable. And the most important blessing is that no matter how long I have to live, I'm going to live until I die. That will be 34 years this coming August 15th. And I've been undetectable since 2003. So again, this doctor said one thing, but Spirit said, you know what? No, I got work for you to do. I hear, you heard what they said, but you know what? I got work for you to do. So instead of curling up in volunteer, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I went back to Greece and kept dancing. So at any rate, I was arrested the second time for people who have AIDS to get housing, to make sure that everybody who was HIV got housing. Because at one point, if you weren't sick enough, you couldn't get housing. And I thought, well, how messed up is that? Housing is healthcare. If you don't have a place to live, you're not going to be interested in taking your medicine. You need a place to live. So again, I did not need that for myself because I was housed. But the point is, that ain't right. That ain't right. So, and that's for housing. Now for healthcare, in 2016, it must have been, they were trying to get away with try to nullify the Affordable Care Act. And there were 24 of us who got arrested in front of the White House. And the 24 of us were representing the 24 million people who would be without health care. So that was different from, being arrested in Albany. I mean, there was the Capitol Police, they put us in this van, actually to stop traffic, for the van to take us over to the place to be processed. And they actually put us in a cell, in a holding cell. In Albany, we were just in a room, but I was actually in a cell. And, the whole time I'm thinking is that I know this is a civil disobedience, but I'm a Black person and they've got me. I mean, I'm thinking, they've got me even though they're not supposed to be, but the point is that I have no control and they don't care what the rules are. So, I mean, all this fear is there, but I just said, you know what, Lord, okay, you know what? You got me here, I must supposed to be here. So every time, that was harrowing because there were only 2 of us in the cell. The point is they keep us all until everybody's processed.
Oh.
That was in March. In July of the same year, I was arrested with 150 other people in the Senate building again to support the Affordable Care Act. And it took about 6 hours for them to process 150 people because they don't let anybody go until everybody does. So let me tell you, owing to trying to go to the bathroom, my belt had been taken away. And I had these shorts that I had to hold up to keep from falling down. And having to go to the bathroom, trying to hold up my shorts, handcuffed for 5 hours was definitely a challenge. Definitely a challenge. And yeah, that was an experience, but I did it. And the thing is that even when I was arrested, there were people outside that knew that I was there. So that was my thing, just that, okay, there are people outside who know that I'm in here, so they're going to say something if I don't get out. And when I got out, people were there to cheer me and do what they're supposed to do. So like I said, it's been 6 times that I do it, but I mean, I said, this is something that's important enough to me that I'm going to lay my life on the line.
That's incredible. You are an incredible warrior.
That's why I'm here. I asked the Lord about 10 years ago why I'm still here, considering that so many people who were diagnosed when I was diagnosed and after are dead. And in the conversation, as clear as you and I are having, she said, because You need to go outside the church wall so that people can see you and hear your story. Hence, the Generations Project and all the other opportunities that come to me now, share my story. First, I went out. Now the opportunities come. People come asking me to tell my story.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I find all of this that your history is so rich, and so there's so many things, so many lessons that we can all learn from just your lived experience.
And that's part of the reason that she said you need to go out so people can see you and hear your story.
Absolutely.
I mean, because the things I went through weren't for me. The things I went through is to try to give to other people to help them. And I realized that all the stuff I go through, I mean, it's not really about me, but so that I can tell people, well, this is what happened and I'm still here.
I have one random question for you. What was your favorite role to dance?
My very first solo that I did after having only had classes like 2 or 3 years. Within the first, that was a dance concert at my university. And I did a solo to Everything Must Change by Quincy Jones.
Oh.
And I choreographed it myself and did it myself. And when the curtain came down, I was a little disappointed because I couldn't hear the applause. But when the curtain came up, I mean, people were applauding. I thought, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And also during that same performance, I said I danced the role of a cowboy. Because of my photographic memory, in fact, I've always been the rehearsal captain for every company I've ever been in, because I could tell, I may not be able to do the steps, but I could tell you what the steps are supposed to be. So I was a rehearsal captain for that. So even though I had just joined, I was so eager and attentive that I was able to do that. I danced in 6 performances in that, my very first dance performance.
Wow.
That was my favorite role. And my last favorite role was right half a block from me at the Samuel Beckett Theater when I danced the role to Black Phoenix, a solo that I choreographed. And then I choreographed the dance that came right after that. I never choreographed the dance. And this person allowed me to put it on their program. That's how secure they were, to allow me to do my own. He gave me the solo to do, but I did a song to I'll Fly Away by Sounds of Blackness. And to see that performed, that was the first time that I'd ever seen a dance performed that I wasn't in. I mean, like, if I'm in the dance, I can fix it, but here I am. I had to give it to them and like sit back and say, and watch it with them with my work. And I was just really, really, really surprised that I thought, okay, I can do this. I can do this. So those were the most important, most interesting. The other times I was dancing and teaching classes and in various shows in, when I was in Greece, I was asked to choreograph a play called Follow Your Dream. And there were 8 people, none of them were dancers, they were all actors. But one thing I know as a choreographer, I know how to take people, I know how to give people moves that look good on their bodies. Because by looking at them, by watching, I'm like, okay, because I'm doing things, but that's not me. I have to give them things that work on their bodies. And like I said, they were not dancers, but I won the award for choreography for that play. And that was the first time. That's how I knew I could do the play when I got back to New York. So I thought, and being in Europe allowed me to grow as a performer in a way that I could not have done here in New York City.
Why?
There are 700 people for 2 roles.
Okay.
That have already been cast, but because the union rules say you have to hold an audition. So the 598 of us are clawing at each other to get these things. We're pitted against each other. But when I went to Europe, the very first, how do I say this? I was in Amsterdam. I was traveling. Should I back up and tell you how I got to Amsterdam?
Sure.
Okay, wait, so where do you start? Okay. I was dancing a duet in Peter Rabbit, a gay bar in the village.
Okay.
I was dancing a duet with someone who had a dance company. I was, dancing around with, as a dancer in studying, the only way you learn how to dance is to actually do it. So any opportunity I had to dance, I did. So we were doing this duet, just playing around and in the bar. And this guy came up to me after and said, there is a club, a nightclub in Mexico City that needs a dance company. Do you have one? Yes. I said yes before he could even ask the question. Did I have a dance company? No, no. But this person came up and said, you have one. So what do I do as a dancer? So what do I need to do? Okay. And what do I do? Well, I know I have to have auditions. I had auditions, word of mouth. I got 7 people, so there are 8 people other than myself. And we went to Mexico City and danced for 10 months. Not only was I the dancer, but I was, like I said, the manager of them. So I was the only one who spoke Spanish. So I was on to call 24/7. Anything happened, they always came to me. But it was a learning experience. It's the kind of thing that you learn how to do something when you know you have to do it. So I said, well, I've never done this before, but that never even occurred to me. I've never done it. What do I need? What do I need to do it? And I figured that out. So I was in a newsstand on a Sunday buying New York Times, and this beautiful Italian man, green eyes, looked at me and cruised me. We had a conversation, and he was an artist, so we were able to talk about artistic things. And said, well, you know what? If you ever get to Lugano, Switzerland, look me up. I had never heard Lugano. I had no idea where it was, but I took his information. And so I did my gig in Mexico City and I finished. One of my dancers did part-time work for DHL. At that time, DHL had not, like, they were just forming themselves and they needed people to physically accompany packages abroad. She could not do something. This was on Wednesday. We actually modeled, we were life models together at Parsons School of Design. And this was on a Wednesday. And she said, you know what? I'm supposed to fly to Heathrow on Saturday. I can't do it. Would you like to do it? I looked in my book and said, yes. And I was in the midst of a show at the time. I was actually in a show that I choreographed at the time. And oh, that was drama. That was drama. People say, how could you leave it? Say, how could I not? But at any rate, I get to London, take the ferry, take the train from Paris, end up in Lugano, Switzerland, paradise. And I stayed with him for a month. And just, I remember thinking while I was there in the beauty of it, how much my mother would like this. Because my mother was the one who, took me around traveling. I said, how much she would like this. So I was there for a month, and I went from there to Munich to stay with the guys that I met in a gay magazine in the One Ads, international One Ads. And I stayed with him for a week. And then I traveled up to Amsterdam and stayed with someone who we shared a house with at the University of Kansas. Of course, during this whole time, I took my portfolio. I'm in Europe. Let me take my portfolio. I looked at the yellow pages, and for dance schools, in the first dance school I went to, they said that one of our dancers is sick. Can you come in and teach this afternoon? I said, yes, I can. So I went back and got my dance clothes. And you know how you go by Jonathan or Kiki, a race?
Jonathan.
Okay, Jonathan. And Jonathan, you know what? From that one gig, word got around and work came.
Work came. Work found you.
Work found me. And from there, I went to Berlin. When I was in Berlin, after a night of carousing, having a good old time, I like sex. Come on, I like sex. Yeah. I like doing things that feel good. I feel good. So one morning, I get a call from someone in Paris who said, they need dancers in Athens, Greece. In Athens. He didn't say Greece, in Athens. And at the time, Jimmy Carter was in office. I said, which Athens? Because I said, there's no way I'm coming back to America. Which Athens? And he said, oh, Athens, Greece. I said, oh, okay, contract and ticket. So I got the lead and went to Greece. And when I landed, I said, before I leave this country, I want to perform on the Greek stage. And not only did I dance in the nightclub there, I danced in a play, 2-person play with me called Man Friday, which is based on Robinson Crusoe speaking fluent Greek. I did a children's television show, Aristophanes the Bird, where I choreographed choreographed and sang and acted the part. So not only did I do, and I was also in theater stated. So not only did I do theater, I did television and nightclub.
Come
So
on, resume. Come on, resume. You've been doing things.
and all of this came from that yes from the man at Peter Rabbit.
Yes, I have another curious question. What was it like traveling Europe as a queer Black human?
Royalty. I was treated like royalty.
I figured.
I was treated like royalty.
Uh-huh.
Except one time when I was in Amsterdam, I went to visit Lugano during the Christmas break because I wanted to see him. And when I was coming back, these customs, got me and started talking to me. And I remember one said, actually, calling me a nigger. And I just remember having my nose so high that they had a bird's eye view of my nostrils. And they called my employer. And then they said, oh, we're so sorry, we're so sorry, we're so sorry. And I just kind of, but because it was such a short time from going, they thought I was smuggling drugs. Black, they thought I was smuggling drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, they called my employer, and because Europe is so small, he was able to come and get me. I must have been in Luxembourg or something, but I was on the train coming back, and then he came and got me, and they said, "Oh, we're so sorry, we're so sorry, we're so sorry." I said, "Yeah, right, yeah, right." One thing about the Dutch people, though, they were kind of racist because there were a lot of Surinamers who lived there, and Suriname was one of their former colonies. And of course, they went in and raped and took all the things from Suriname. So when the Surinamers came back, they were pissed off. But as soon as I said I was American, changed. The whole thing changed. So I said, yeah, I got that too. So that was pretty much racist. But still, I was treated like royalty. Like royalty. I mean, yeah, treated like royalty. Yeah.
How long were you in Europe? How long did you tour there?
The entire decade of the 80s. I left after I did thing in 79 in Mexico. I went and I got back in 1989. So I missed the entire decade of the 80s when people talk about various things that's on television. They said, when was that? I said, well, no, I missed all that. So I was there for that entire time. And the longest I stayed was in Greece. I loved it. I loved the place. The men and the culture and the history and the men and the food and the ocean and the men. And did I mention the men? Did I mention the men? And did I mention the men? And then there were men as well. And being in places where prayer Paul were biblical places, it was like I was living in a history book, and there were all these men there.
And you just had to touch and say hi.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's the only polite thing to do.
Of course.
Yeah, mama didn't raise no food.
And speaking fluent Greek just blew their minds. They loved me because very few people speak Greek other than them, and very few people who come to visit them or stay in the country speak Greek. So I was blowing folks' mind left and right. But
among other things.
I haven't.
What? I'm not judging. I'm just commenting.
You're right. You're right. All that and then some. But I have an ear for language, so I was able to pick it up very quickly. And actually, I was in a fraternity in college, so I knew the uppercase Greek alphabet already. But I learned the lowercase by watching television and reading the subtitles. So I was able to learn how to do it from amazing what subtitles do, reading subtitles.
That's true. That's true.
And I was able to do that. And like I said, in Greece, if you don't say the exact word, no one will understand what you're saying, unlike English. In Greece, agori, agora sound very, very same. Agori is a boy, agora is a marketplace, and aguri is a cucumber.
Got you.
So if I say one of those things, they're going to think I'm talking about that when that's not what I meant. So you have to say exactly what it is. And I was able to do that well enough to be on television and the stage.
That's incredible.
I was so proud of myself. I am so proud of myself.
I'm proud of you too. Yeah. Tell me about the transition back to the US in the 90s.
It was a culture shock. I came back primarily because I realized I had done everything I wanted to do as a performer. And it
Hmm.
was getting kind of difficult to be in Greece because I could not walk out on the street without feeling like I was on stage. So I couldn't just go out. Just I had to be dressed. I had to be aware of my appearance because people recognized me. And I thought that must be how Michael Jackson must be. How do you deal with that pressure? And just really kind of got on me. And I realized I've done everything I wanted to do. And I also had two nieces, one that was 1 year old, and one that was 2 years old, that I had never met. And I
Okay.
said, you know what? I've done this. I've done this now, so I need to go back so I can be a part of their lives. I do not want to be the Black man that they heard of but never saw. The
Hmm.
actual Black person. I did not want to be that. And also, I wanted to be able to pour into them all that I had. And now there are four nieces, one nephew, and all of them have traveled abroad. And I think Uncle Reginald had something to do with that because I poured in my experiences with them and
Hmm.
shared what I just here. I just flooded them with all the stuff that I had here. And they took it in, they took it and ran. So that's why I came back, but it was a culture shock. I remember the day I landed in New York, it was overcast. And I was coming from 9 months of summer in Greece, because no Greece, they have two seasons there, summer and winter, no fall, no spring. But summer
Hmm.
is like 9 months long, unlike here. So I come back and it's like dark. And it was depressing. It was and a culture shock because I'd been away so long. I do remember one funny thing. New York then had the salad bars, open salad bars. And I went to one, and this person had an accent. I remember saying, "You want a fork?" And I thought he said, "You want a fuck?" He's asking me if I wanted a fork. But I remember thinking that, oh, wait. But
Wait, what?
you want a fork? Okay, all right, okay. So that was that. It was a culture shock. It was it was a culture shock. Plus the fact that I was living in Manhattan before I left and could not see myself paying as much as I would have to stay in Manhattan when I lived in penthouses in Greece. I
Hmm.
lived in just rent with for a very little $160, very little money. So I went to Brooklyn. So that was a culture shock. No, it's a culture shock.
Okay. Brooklyn in the 90s. Was that also like what was Brooklyn like in the 90s?
Well, it wasn't gentrified as it was now. It was just Brooklyn. I don't know. Yeah, there was
Well,
like
I will say because in the 90s hmm, I had graduated high school, then moved college, then moved to eventually Colorado, where I spent the majority of the 90s. It was in Colorado.
okay,
And the majority of the 2000s. I didn't move here to New York until 2012. So I
okay.
lived in Colorado for almost 20 years.
We're in Colorado.
And Denver.
Okay,
When I first moved there, it was because I joined the military after college. And yes, honey. And they sent me to Fort Carson, Colorado, in Colorado Springs. And that was quite an interesting moment because it was Colorado's a very, 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 very white state. And um my time spent there was complicated. But I wouldn't change anything in the world about it. Like when I was in Colorado, I was uh on my way from work, and I get pulled over by the cops, and uh, they arrest me, and I'm like, wait, why am I being arrested? And they said a parole violation in 1985, and I get taken and processed and everything. So I'm sitting in the cell and I am panicking because at this point I am 1 year positive, probably 1 year positive. And this was back when I was taking 20 some odd pills a day. And I'm panicking and I'm thinking, wait, I've never been arrested before. How can I be on parole? And my ex eventually brings me my medication. I go to court the very next day. Um, I'm standing in front of the judge. She's looking at me. She looks down at this, what apparently I'm being charged for, and she says, I have a question for you. I was like, sure. How old were you in 1985? I said I was 13. Depending on the time of year, it was either 12 or 13.
Right.
She says, where did you live? And I said, Tacoma, Washington. She said, this isn't you. I said, I know. I know. Then I went from there and I reached out to an attorney friend of mine and I said, do me a favor. I want you to run my name through the system. Now, at that time, I was using, I legally changed my name many, many moons ago. And it's because of this particular thing. They ran my birth name. My friend ran my birth name. There were 17 warrants out for that combination of names. And I was told that I could either go and prove, I'd have to carry something to prove that I was not that person. And every time I get stopped, I would have to go through this process. And then she said something else. And she says, or you could just change your name. And she meant that flippantly. What she didn't realize is it is something that I had always wanted to do anyway, because my birth name was not something that I identified with.
What was it by name?
Oh, sure. My birth name is Eddie Lee Jackson Jr. That doesn't suit me at all. And after my father disowned me when I was a young person, I didn't feel comfortable carrying a person's name who wanted nothing to do with me. So
Were you named after him? Were you named after him?
Yeah, I was a junior.
Oh, okay.
And I was driving home from work the following after all of this, after I got out, blah blah blah. And I was only in jail for 12 hours or so, and it was the most nope, it was probably less time than that. And I hated every fucking minute of it. I'm like, and at that point, that was nothing that had ever come up in my world before. I was like, me arrested? How dare you? Because
how did you cope? How did that feel?
it felt, honestly, I was dumbfounded and I was scared and I was nervous because here I am I'm newly diagnosed, living through it and everything, but I was also under the mindset if I missed a pill, I was going to die.
I can definitely identify with that. How old were you then?
I was 28, somewhere in there. So I must have been several more years, maybe 3 years positive by that point, because I seroconverted 17 days before my 25th birthday.
Okay.
And so I called my mom and I was like, hey, mom, I have a question for you. She says, yes. I was like, if you had the chance to name me, and that's as far as I got into the conversation. And she said, I would name you Jonathan. I would have named you Jonathan. It's a name that I've always loved. And I think that it suits you. I was like, oh, okay. I'll call you later. Then
Now you were in jail at this time?
No. I was already out.
Okay.
I'd never gone to jail. I was never in jail. I just got arrested and I was in a cell. I'd never gone to jail. No, no,
Gotcha.
no.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I called her up, and so she says his name. That very next day, I went down to the court and I legally changed my name. Um, when after that happened, do you know that I haven't been pulled over? I've had interactions with police officers. No, that's not altogether true. I was stopped by some cops once right after I had gotten my name changed, and there was some interaction, but white drag queen stopped that from happening. Um, so look, I've been surrounded by white queerness most of my adult life. So um they've always been around and unintentionally prevented things from escalating
Good.
with their whiteness.
That's it. That take advantage of that privilege.
Yeah. And so it was the most liberating thing I could do. And I knew that if I could just adjust my name, this would prevent this from happening to me again. And when I did it, and I called my mom and I was like, hey, by the way, I changed my name. And she said, I'm sorry, what? I said, I changed my name. And she's the only person in my life that still calls me by my birth name, by
Even
my
though,
first name.
okay, even though she said if she had a choice, she would have named you
Yeah.
Jonathan. I mean,
She's
yeah.
the only, but she introduces me as Jonathan.
Okay.
She refer when she's talking to everybody about me, she
Okay.
says Jonathan. But when she
Okay.
talks to me, she calls me Eddie.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
that doesn't bother me. One of my middle names is Edward, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's fine. And I when I watched last year George Floyd being murdered, after I'd seen dozens and dozens and dozens of other Black men be murdered, there was something about his murder that hit a chord with me. And that chord brought up every single interaction that I've had with people that have been complicated. And I know that it's been driven by my race. And
Can you give me an
I'm,
example other than the incident of you being arrested falsely?
oh yeah, I can give you tons of examples about it.
That's what.
You know, you're walking down the street, you're minding your own business. No, I'll give you a better one. And this happens probably more frequently than you realize. Have you ever been on an elevator just minding your own business, living your best life? Janet gets on the elevator. She looks at you and she immediately grips her purse so desperately, because this happened to me at when I was corporate Barbie. So here I am living my best life on my way to the 14th floor to do some math. And I get on the elevator, and then the elevator opens on the second floor. And then here comes Janet. She's on there. She's looking at me and she's gripping her purse and she's holding on to dear life. And then, elevator goes up, elevator goes up. And at this point, I'm doing exactly what you're doing. I'm laughing. I started in a giggle. I started in a By the time we got to my floor, I am in legitimate hysterics. The door opens. As I'm walking out, I turn to her and I say, I didn't want that trash ass Payless purse anyway. How dare you?
How did that make you feel?
I felt I was wonderful. It was just that's the kind of humor that I'm seeing this all through now. It's like, listen, I could yell and scream at you, or I could point out how stupid this looks. I could
Right.
point out how stupid your actions are.
Right.
And then when you see how stupid they are, you open your perspective. You're like, wait, that was stupid. That was stupid. And she's gripping her purse. We're in this secured building. You're gonna see me again, Janet. You was I had credentials to get up into this building. What do you think I want your shit for, girl? So there's those incidents, or the ones where you're making a point and then you hear, well, just playing the devil's advocate. Anytime anyone says I'm being the devil's advocate, or just looking at the other side, or I don't mean to be racist, but
Don't mean to be racist, then shut the fuck up. You've already revealed your cards.
just playing the devil's advocate, I think that the looters shouldn't have burned the stores. You mean the stores with millions of dollars of insurance that will pay for things like that? You mean those stores? Get the fuck out of here. And those are interactions that they may be slight digs here and there that we all negotiate because why? But those digs are part of a larger problem. What that tells me is you don't see me as human. So you can treat me any old kind of way. And if you don't see me as human, when you go into the voting booth, you don't vote for our interests, you only vote for your interests. When you see us being killed on the street, you already and you hear that criminal narrative that's always painted, it's easier for you to distance yourself away from Black issues, from BIPOC issues, because we've been painted as the aggressors.
We've been
And
ugly.
yeah, that's the narrative that is has us all here.
Mhm.
And when we come to the table and we try to reconcile, we get playing the devil's advocate. We get, well, maybe if we just compromise. Well, if we, but we've compromised and we compromise and we continue to compromise. And what we're doing is compromising, taking away our equality, our humanity, our need for dignity, our need for pride, our need for celebratory experiences to make someone who doesn't give a shit about us comfortable.
Oh, 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 oh. You better preach.
And what good is that gonna do? I don't give a I don't give a shit if you like me. I don't. But I don't want you to block my blessings because I'm not blocking yours. If you truly believe that you are superior, make it equal and then let's find out.
That's right. And if you're superior, then you should not have to, then you should be secure enough in yourself not to be worried about me. Because you know what? I am so busy living my life. I am not interested in what you're doing. But you're the one that's obsessed with this. But it's because your superiority is based on being on somebody else's inferiority. Inherently, in and of yourself, you ain't got shit. Everything you've had, you stolen or
And you
appropriated.
ain't about shit.
I'm sorry.
I say, and you ain't about shit.
No.
First of all, you ain't got shit and you ain't
Right,
about shit.
right, right.
And I'm not, and this isn't me attacking. It's just I'm being completely and frank. I'm being completely frank here.
Right.
Um,
And Frank, okay.
I, I've been trying to train myself out of saying that as well.
Okay,
It's one of my favorite statements to say, but I think it's a little insensitive, so I'm trying not to use it anymore.
okay, all right.
Um, but it's one of these things where if we're going to talk history, if we're going to talk patriotism, if we're going to talk the US, we have to talk about it in full context, using all the facts, using all of the history, even the history that makes white people uncomfortable,
Yeah.
even the history that justifies the reason why you have more wealth
Mhm.
than we do. It's not because you're smarter, it's
Nope.
because it's been legislated to be that way. It's not that your children are inherently smarter than ours. It's just that the school systems that your children go to are better funded. The reason why they're better funded is our neighborhoods traditionally have been redlined. No one invests there, no one buys there. So the property value is shit. And apparently, school budgets are tied to property values.
Yeah.
Who came up with that?
Yeah.
Separate but equal.
Interesting. Yeah. Right.
So when you like unravel this onion, you see how it's all connected to white supremacy
Yeah.
and keeping us all separate from one another.
Racial capitalism is the DNA of USA. That's what it is. It's racial capitalism.
Yeah. Yes, it is. You know, I am so honored to have had this conversation with you.
It's a
I
blessing to me to be able to share my story.
Your just the snippets that you've shared have wow, it's I'm a better person for having this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for sharing with you, sharing your experience, because you definitely opened my eyes to something that I was just completely oblivious of. Like as recently as the 70s, to step aside. I read about things like that. I mean, but I thought that was a stuff of books from a long time ago.
We were just my partner and I were just in the South. We go to the South, unfortunately. Um, and when we do, we're either met with uh celebrity superstar status or what the fuck is this? Because we're a queer interracial couple, and it's either ooh or what. And
Yeah.
then when I get in conversations with people and then I tell them I do race work, I'm either met with, oh, really? Or why? We don't need that. There's nothing wrong. What do you mean? I had we had nannies when I was a child, and we loved them just like family.
Except that you don't treat them like family.
There
I'm
was a
sorry.
whole lot to unpack in that particular statement. When
Yeah,
I
right.
heard it, that I chose, I I'm learning to choose my battles.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
are times when I can say things because I feel like if I don't, you're going to walk around this world and you're going to say the wrong thing to somebody and they're going to whoop your ass.
yeah,
And I'm concerned for that person who's going to whoop your ass. I'm not concerned for you. I'm concerned for that person who's going to
yeah.
whoop your ass because I don't want them to go to jail. I don't
Right,
want
right,
them to catch a case.
right,
But
right.
then there are times when I don't say things because I want to see it play out. And I want to know in my heart that you're going to run into that one person on the wrong day and you're going to get what you deserve. I know that that's mean, but it brings me satisfaction when I have tried to tell, look, these are the things that you're doing that are problematic. If you continue to do these things,
Yeah,
somebody's going to whoop your ass.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, you don't want to, okay, oh, you got your ass beat, I'm so sorry.
And like you said, there are times that are teachable moments.
There are times, and then there are times that are just like, I'm going to let go and let God.
Right? Not to, yeah, not today. So teachable, not today. That's not me today. You know, you caught
Hmm.
me on the day that I'm not
My
I'm
day
not doing
off.
I'm not doing any teaching today. But sometimes I do it. I will do it. And it's interesting when people say, thank you so much for bringing that up to me. And I know that
Mhm.
that's what I was supposed to do. But other times, like, okay, you know what? The Spirit says, no, just you're here, but they're not getting it. So, don't waste, like, prioritizing.
Yeah. You're
One of the
like,
things, one of the blessings of HIV is that, you know what? I ain't got time for nobody and nobody bullshit. Nothing's gonna waste my time. My
nothing's
time is
gonna
precious.
waste your time.
That's why I tell people right up front, I'm HIV positive. So let them know ahead of time so that they don't waste my time. Of course, not waste their time, but so that don't waste my time. Because if you don't, cool, that's okay. Because I don't want to invest something in here and find out later on that, oh, you don't want me just because of that, but I'm still the same person. So let me just tell you ahead of time, informed consent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
But
see how that plays out.
I'm sure it's played out quite well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm certain you still dipping it and doing it.
I'm still alive.
So you're still dipping it and doing it.
Well, well,
Well, darling, I've sincerely enjoyed this call.
likewise.
Um, Thank you and have an incredible rest of your day.
You do the same.
Thank
I'm proud
you.
of you. You're my
Oh,
legacy.
oh. I'm
Heck for
also
me.
learning how to take compliments.
All right. I am. Yep. Yep. And that's a learning process. So it's
Uh-huh.
all good. It's all good. So,